Hey, gang, welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I've got our producer on with us, Jill. Hello, Jill. You've got an interesting background. You working out while you're running the live stream? What is that? What's going on in the background?
Certainly does look that way, Jeff, doesn't it? But I'm having some work done in my house, and so I do not have access to my home office right now. So I am upstairs in my gym.
Going to be pumping iron while we're talking Social Security and Medicare.
You might just see me take a little break.
All right. Well, let's just jump into it. Let me first read the disclaimer. We have to read this because of the state of New York. Many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We'll do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can give in a live stream. Therefore, this live stream is for educational purposes only. Also, we haven't had the chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act on. For any specifics to your situation, make sure you talk with a qualified professional. Speaking of qualified professionals, if you have a question about Medicare, give our trusted partner chapter a call, 440-703-1224. You can see their phone number on the lower right-hand corner. And many of you know Ari, who comes on every few weeks to answer Medicare questions. I'll be answering them tonight. All right. Having said all of that, why don't I pass it to you, Jill, to lead the way.
All right, great. So welcome, everyone. As you know, we do take emailed questions in as well as questions in the chat box. I know it was not emailed out to send in questions. It's because we have a backlog of a lot of questions and we want to make sure to get to all of them. So we're going to be taking our emailed questions in that are still from last week and taking them in the chat box. So please do put your questions into the chat box. Also, for those of you that are interested in Ari's book, I will be putting that link into the chat box in just a little bit. That book is his new version of It's Not That Complicated. All right, so we ready for a question?
Bring it on.
We will start with the Social Security question, which is from Stephen. In my first year of claiming Social Security, how do I report a one-time bonus or irregular income to avoid issues with the earnings limit?
So there are a lot of this has to do with how your HR codes your bonus. If it ends up on your W-2, then it is something that can affect your earnings limit. The good news, though, is that your earnings limit is based on your income from, well, basically it's when your Social Security starts. So if your Social Security started mid-year and you got the bonus before Social Security started, that's fine. If you get your bonus, which a lot of people do, at a point in time in the future, let's say that you have income and you retired in June, but you normally get bonused out in, say, November or October, whenever it is. The first year of Social Security, you have a monthly test, not an annual test. And so that monthly test will be the measure of income just for that month only. So check with your HR department and find out how they're going to code it. It won't throw you off for your Social Security for all of the rest of the months. Just in your first year, it'll be the month only that you receive it.
All right, great. So a Medicare question from Skipper on YouTube. How much should a good Medicare supplement cost?
That's almost the answer to that question is how long is what's the saying? How long is a piece of string? A lot of it depends on the state that you live in. It depends on the type of plan that you get, whether you're talking about a Medigap plan or a Medicare Advantage plan. A lot of Medicare Advantage plans are free and you don't pay anything, but you also have limitations on a Medicare Advantage plan. There has been a number that has generically been thrown around. It's about $220 a month in the state that I'm in, but it depends on your state. What I would do, if you have a question about Medicare supplements, this is the perfect question for chapter 440-703-1224. By the way, two things that keep coming up on these live streams about working with a Medicare advisor. The first is, do they charge a fee? The answer is absolutely not. The second is, do they charge you more? Do you get charged more than if you do the work on your own? And again, the answer is absolutely not. There are laws around that. So if you call them and you use them, it won't cost you anything. The person who pays, or the institution that pays for it, is the insurance company itself, and they can't have a different rate for you working with Chapter or whoever you choose versus somebody else. So I would definitely have your specific situation checked out at Chapter.
All right, a Social Security question from Boyd. What is Congress currently doing about the Social Security shortfall, and how likely is a last-minute fix?
So they aren't doing much right now, to be completely candid. And the reason, well, it's not as important to them as it is to everybody on this call. I'm just going to put it out there the way that it is. The way that governments work, generally speaking, and you saw it in every major crisis, including the Medicare crisis of 1983, nothing gets done really until things get urgent. There are times where that's not the case, but if you remember in the global financial crisis of 2008, I don't know about you, but half the country was glued on television watching Congress vote on the bank bailout packages, and it failed the first time and went through the second time. And that all happened within 24 hours. And we're talking about a lot of money and decisions being made very, very quickly. The reality is this is a 2032, 2033 issue, depending on interest rates, to be completely candid, and it's 2026. So it's highly unlikely to get solved by this administration. It's not because this administration is good or bad. It always happens in the administration, historically. Anyway, it's happened in the year that it was dealt with in whatever administration is in office. In 1983, by the way, there was 2 months worth of reserves in the trust, and then they were going to go negative, or not negative. They were going to have to cut the payment, and there was a group of 7 congressmen who got together and hammered out a deal. But both parties have said that they support Social Security. They're not going to have Social Security cut. And so I think the odds of a last minute deal are incredibly good. And I would say that the likelihood anyway, and I would say that the likelihood is it will look something like some variation of what happened in 1983. There might be a donut where they stop taxing for a while and they start taxing again. There might be a slight increase in the Social Security tax. There are a lot of things that could happen, but I think it's the one thing that's unlikely is that folks are going to get their Medicare payment cut by 23% or 28%, depending on what you read.
All right, Jeff Be Kind has a Medicare question. Community rated Part N or attained age Part N? Which one will increase faster over the next 5 to 10 years?
That is a good question. And community rated has a different set of measures than attained age rated. But it also depends on, again, where you live. And so what I would say, I'll say this the same thing that I said to the previous Medicare question, which is you actually need to get very specific about where you live and what your timing looks like. And that's not something we can do on a live stream, but talk to a Medicare advisor. And again, we recommend Chapter. They're not the only Medicare advisor, but we personally think that they're the best, I guess, or one of the best for sure. And that we've sent a lot of people there over the years, and the feedback has been phenomenal. So give them a call and have them work with your specific situation.
All right, Alberto Sanchez has a Social Security question. What happens to my Social Security benefits if I move to live permanently in the Philippines?
Yep. So the Philippines is a destination of choice for a lot of people in this country. And in fact, if you were to actually lay out where the big ones, the Philippines is one, there is Portugal is one, and believe it or not, Tokyo is one, but you have to either be be a descendant, or you have to be married to someone who's a descendant. So Tokyo, for whatever reason, seems to attract a lot of people, but it has very specific visa requirements. And so you can move there. There's no problem. If you're a U.S. citizen, they'll just send you the check to whatever account you designate. And then if you're not a U.S. citizen, you have to come back. I think it's every 6 months for a month. Although there are some countries where there's an exemption. The Philippines might be one because that used to be U.S. territory. But you won't have a problem if you want to move to the Philippines and receive your check there.
All right. Writer 89 would love your thoughts. Do you think RFK will try to get functional medicine doctors to be accepted by Medicare? How can we get these doctors on our physician lists?
I have no idea. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Robert is asking, if you make a Roth conversion from an IRA, does the tax have to be paid then, or can you wait until the end of the year?
Your question is, if you do a Roth conversion, do you have to pay the tax at the time of the conversion? No, you don't have to do it at the time of the conversion. You can do it in a quarterly pay, and that's how I would do it. I wouldn't wait until the end of the year, because there are a lot of variables that are used into the calculation of the taxes that are owed on your Roth conversion. Think of it like this. There is a quarterly pay system set up for a reason, and the basis for the quarterly pay system is that the government wants its money. Yes, the government wants its money. And so if you miss it for whatever reason, theoretically, they could charge you a penalty. Now, there are some reasons why. There are some ways where you can miss it and you don't get paid a penalty. And a lot of it has to do with your income is larger this year than it was last year. And so therefore you wouldn't know to have paid it. But by and large, I would send in the taxes or estimated taxes within the quarter, at the end of the quarter where you're in now.
All right. Stella is asking, my husband of 30 years just passed away. What happens to his Social Security?
Yep. So first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you. It's tragic, and unfortunately it happens to all of us, I suppose. His Social Security becomes your Social Security. It's called the survivor benefit, and the survivor benefit will basically allow you to assume his Social Security payment. There are a couple of requirements for that. One is that you had to be married for a certain period of time, and you were. The second is that in your own situation, if you haven't reached your own full retirement age, then the size of his payment would be reduced. If you're age 62, let's say, it's going to be reduced pretty significantly. If you're 67 or higher, assuming your full retirement age is 67, then you get 100% of his Social Security benefit. And if he filed early, and what I mean by early is before 63 and 9 months, there's something called a widow's limit. And the widow's limit basically raises your payment to 82.5% of what his full retirement age benefit is. And so you get the larger of the benefit, or 82.5%. But with the widow's limit, it's again going to be based on when you file. If you file before you're 63 and 9 months, then that you're not going to get the widow's limit. If you're 63 and 9 months or greater, you'll get the widow's limit. One thing about the widow's limit, though, is at 63 and 9 months, your payment won't grow anymore. So once you hit 63 and 9 months, you're not going to increase that smaller payment, that payment that he filed early on, 62, 63, that type of thing. If he was older than 63 and 9 months, then you don't need to worry about the widow's limit.
All right. Thank you. And there's some support for you, Stella, in the chat box. Sorry for your loss. All right. So we have a question, a Medicare question. Can you talk about IRMAA? What's IRMAA?
IRMAA is income related monthly adjustment amount. And basically it is an amount, it's a surcharge because you make a lot of money. And the way that it works is you have a base Medicare Part B premium, and then an IRMAA surcharge is an increase on that premium. And so in 2026, if your 2024 income was 109,000, over 109,000, you're going to have an IRMAA surcharge, modified adjusted gross income, over 109,000. Over 218,000, if you're married filing jointly, then you're going to have an IRMAA surcharge. And that amount goes all the way up to $500,000 if you're single and $750,000 if you're married filing jointly. And it can be a huge, huge increase. And so the thing to note here is if you're married filing jointly and you made less than 218,000 2 years ago, then you're not going to have an IRMAA surcharge, nor would you have one if you made less than 109,000 2 years ago. It's a 24-month look back. So in 2026, your premiums are based on your 2024 income. That catches a lot of people off guard. And so that means basically, and a lot of people just forget. They think that they paid their taxes in 2025 or 2024, and they think they're done. All of a sudden, they have a huge uptick in their premium in 2026. A classic example is here in New York, you can have a massive increase in the price of your house. And if you bought your house 30 years ago, I put out a video on this. If you bought your house 30 years ago in Long Island, you might have paid $200,000, and today it might be worth $1 million plus. That's just the nature of New York. It's unfortunate that New York is so expensive. Long Island's a wonderful place, but you have this big price increase. And so there's a deduction that most people get. It's either $250,000 or $500,000 if you're married filing jointly. So it's an exemption from taxation. But any growth beyond that, you're going to pay taxes on. Well, that stuff beyond those levels becomes part of your modified adjusted gross income, but it's a one-time charge. So it only happens in 2026 for your 2024 income. It doesn't continue on forever. It happens in the year. And if you happen to reach 65 in 2026, but you only reach 65 in mid-2026, you're only paying the IRMAA surcharge for the back 6 months of the year.
All right, a Social Security question that was emailed in from Bill. He's asking, what is recently passed Social Security benefit change, and what is the likelihood that benefits will be reduced?
There hasn't been a true amendment to the Social Securities Act of 1935 in a long time, and the 90s actually. There have been laws that have been put in place around it, but to amend the Social Securities Act takes a lot of work. It takes the majority in the House and the Senate, and there has to be a good reason to do it. And I believe in the Senate you actually need 2/3. So what you're seeing now is what I call Medicare adjacent. There's a $6,000 per person additional deduction if you're 65 or older. And that was billed as a no tax on Social Security provision. And if you squint, you could argue that brings the majority of people up to where they're not paying taxes on Social Security, because it's $6,000 for each person. A couple gets $12,000 on top of, there's another 65 plus deduction. There's also a pretty big standard deduction out there now. So overwhelmingly, the majority of people aren't paying tax on Social Security because you're stacking all these deductions on top of each other. But it's not a true amendment to the Social Securities Act. There was also a repeal of the windfall elimination provision and that was in late 2024. And basically, that meant that people were getting penalized for having effectively a government pension or a state government pension, a federal government pension, and their Social Security payment was being reduced by a certain percentage. Well, that percentage has gone away, and now so they get full Social Security benefits based on what they contributed to Social Security. So if you didn't contribute much, then you're still not going to get much, but there's no haircut on that. But neither one of those were an amendment to the Social Securities Act of 1935.
All right. Decomad is asking a Social Security question. My husband passed away 3 years ago. I started collecting Social Security 2 years ago. Can I collect his full benefit when I reach 66 years and 8 months? Or did I make a mistake collecting my Social Security?
No, you didn't make a mistake. You have the option to collect your own Social Security or the survivor benefit. And so people will often start with one and they'll take the other. A lot of that has to do with your specific situation. And the fact is, this is the only provision in the Social Security Code, the Social Security Act, where I think people who created the provision actually rounded up. They squinted a little bit in favor of the widow or the widower, depending on who you are. And so you can swap from one to the other. If this was a spousal benefit and you wanted to go from your own benefit to the spousal benefit, you get penalized if you started off with your own benefit and then later you wanted to switch to the spousal benefit. But here you can start with one and then switch to the other. The only thing I would say is that your own benefit can continue to grow to age 70, and the survivor benefit stops growing when you reach age 67. So if you are, or in your case, 66 years and 8 months, so once you reach full retirement age, you can make the decision to pause your own benefit, let it continue to grow for the next several years. But the base it's going to be based on is the base that you started taking Social Security, not the full retirement age base. So it sounds like you're in reasonable shape, and I would spend some time working with someone who knows Social Security so that they can give you some good advice on this. Or you could buy my course, Social Security Simplified. It is one I created. There's a huge section on survivor benefit, and in fact, we give folks on the live stream $60 off. Joe will put in the chat box the location of the course and also the code to get the $60 off.
Yes, I will do that. It is holyschmidt.com / Social Security coupon code 60 off. But I will absolutely put that into the chat box in just a little bit. All right, so we have a Medicare question. I'm trying to manage Part B premiums, but I have to take money to pay the premiums out of a 401k, which drives up my income.
Sure.
If I try to do a Roth conversion, I get nailed by IRMAA. What do I do?
Doesn't sound like a good situation. It depends on how close to the edge you are, of course. You need to know the limits, that you need to know your tax rate, what tax rate you're pushing into if you're going to do a Roth conversion, because when you take money out of your 401k or your IRA and you roll it into a Roth, that's going to push up your tax rate. It's also going to increase your modified adjusted gross income for 24 months from now. And so what I would absolutely do is at least do the math and understand where your breakpoints are for your tax and your IRMAA. If you want help with the IRMAA part, give the gang a call, 440-703-1224. You can talk to them about the Medicare part. I would say that for your own for your own tax work, you'll either need to be really good at understanding tax brackets, or maybe use a software like Bolden, personal financial planning software. That's the one that I use, and they're also an affiliate of ours.
All right, another IRMAA question from Maria. If I retire at my full retirement age, 67, will my IRMAA be calculated for what I earned at 65?
Well, your IRMAA will be calculated for what you earned at 65, no matter when you retire. So IRMAA is based on your modified adjusted gross income, and so your Social Security at 67 is going to be part of that calculation. But if you were earning a lot of money at age 65, then that'll be the basis for your Part B premium, your IRMAA surcharge. There are exemptions. There are several exemptions to the IRMAA surcharge. If you retire, that's one of them. You have to fill out a form and let them know why you think that you don't owe the IRMAA surcharge, but it's something you can appeal. If you're going to be in a situation where you have an IRMAA surcharge, just check it against one of the 8, and this one, retirement, is one of them. If your income goes down, that's one of them. But it's something for you to follow closely.
All right, a Social Security question from Jay Coggs. Can I get Social Security spousal benefits if I'm divorced? Was married for 18 years, then divorced, remarried about 11 years ago.
If you're remarried, then you can't have both. You can't have a spousal benefit and your divorced spouse benefit. And if you remarried before age 60, then you'll have to go with your current spouse and the spousal benefits there. If you remarried after age 60, then you'll have a choice between the two.
Okay. An interesting question from My Flight Life. If I'm a musician and get paid cash 90% of the time, how do I document a credible year for Social Security?
Sorry, you're saying that you get paid cash for 90% of the time, and your question is, how do you calculate your income for Social Security?
Probably the points. Is it counted as a year of work?
Well, so two things. One, you should be paying FICA on your cash payment, and if you're not, then it won't be cataloged as a contribution to your Social Security payment. Social Security only knows what they see, and so when you file your tax return, if your 90% of your income is cash and you report it on your tax return, there'll also be a requirement to pay FICA on that amount, both yours and as an employer. So 12.4%, not 6.2%. And so if you're capturing it on your tax return, then you're good for Social Security. There won't really be a situation where you can't report the cash and then expect to get Social Security on it. The two don't actually work together.
All right. Patsy Yield is asking, I plan to start collecting Social Security in July. What do I need to do for this?
Yep. So it's April now, May, June, July. Now is the time for you to notify the SSA that you want to collect Social Security and tell them when you want to start Social Security. Keep in mind that Social Security is in arrears. So if you want to receive your first payment in July, you need to start in June, which is not that far away. Go to ssa.gov and fill out the paperwork. It's right there. It's 5 minutes most of the time anyway, unless there's something irregular about your earnings history that usually relates to someone who is using your Social Security number for employment, not someone who's also trying to collect Social Security on your Social Security number. That doesn't really happen. I've never heard of it actually happening, suppose it could happen, but it's unlikely. And so as long as you don't have an irregular earnings history, you should be approved pretty quickly. It can all be done online, but I would do it now.
All right, Lisa emailed in a question on Social Security. If my husband claims Social Security at 65 while I continue working until 67, are there any penalties or tax considerations we should be aware of?
Your husband claims Social Security at 65, you claim at 67. There isn't a crossover in the earnings limit, so he won't be affected by you continuing to work. That's an individual limit. But taxes on Social Security are based on family limits. So, for example, the 2026 levels are, and in fact, they haven't really changed since they were amended in 1983. So you won't really have any issues with regard to the earnings test, but you'll need to check your taxes for taxes on Social Security. You'll need to calculate your income for that provision, and it's either 50% or 85% of your taxes. Your Social Security becomes taxable. It just depends on what your combined income is, and that's the term. It's called combined income. It's 1/2 your Social Security payment plus your taxable income plus your interest-free income. You add all of that together, and if you exceed certain thresholds, his Social Security payment starts to become more and more taxable. And then once you receive your Social Security payment, I think you were the one who was going to wait until 67. Once you turn 67, then your combined income your Social Security payment will also potentially become taxable. It depends on how much you earn, though.
Okay. So here is an IRMAA from John Leo. Our MAGI for 2025 was $289,019. I just learned about IRMAA. If I plan to retire in 2028, are there any actions I can take today to avoid IRMAA in 2028?
Well, your 2025 income will affect your 2027 Part B premium. If you don't have a Part B premium in 2027 because you're still working and you're on a large group plan, 20 or more employees, then you won't be subject to an IRMAA surcharge. In 2028, you could be subject to an IRMAA surcharge based on your 2026 income, i.e. this year. And so the threshold in 2028 undoubtedly will be higher than it is today. But today the threshold talks about the threshold starts at 109,000 for singles and 218,000 if you're married filing jointly. If you're 289 now, if you're single, you're going to have a reasonably large IRMAA surcharge. There are exceptions to that, and like I said, if you retire and you fill out the paperwork, that is a way to appeal the IRMAA surcharge, but it's not automatic. You need to actually go after it.
All right. BW Pops is asking, I am 62, 63 this year. What do I need to prep now for Medicare at 65? I'm on Social Security now.
You're 62 now, and you're going to be 63 this year, and you want to prep for Medicare at 65. Well, the good news is not really anything. If you're thinking about it in 2 years out, you're in good shape. The only thing you need to really understand is the window where you can apply and there's no underwriting, assuming that you're not on a creditable plan at 65, 20 or more employers, either through your company or your spouse's company. But if you apply for Social Security in 2020, in a few years, in 20 2027. Is that what he said, Jill?
2028.
2028. If you apply in 2028, you're going to 3 months on either side of your 65th birthday. You can actually apply. I would say plan on applying 3 months before you turn 65. Your window is 7 months, 3 months before you turn 65, the month that you turn 65, and 3 months after the month that you turn 65, unless you're born on the 1st, and then everything is a month earlier. And that's just for administrative reasons. So if you were born on, say, April 1st, assume that you were born for the purposes of the 3-month window before your 65th birthday. Assume that you were born in March, as an example.
Okay. Patsy Yield is asking, I plan to start collecting Social Security in July at my full retirement age, but will continue to work part-time, and so will not need Medicare. Do I need to notify Social Security about not needing Medicare yet?
You don't need to notify Social Security. Sorry, let me rephrase. Your question is if they take the Medicare Part A and Part B out of your, Medicare Part B out of your check, your Social Security check. Yes, you do need to notify Social Security that you're electing not to take Medicare at 65. You just need to make sure you're on a creditable plan. And again, the rules around creditable are 20 or more employees in the company, and then you don't need to take Medicare at once you turn 65.
Okay, going to move to a emailed question from Beth. When I start Social Security, will my Medicare premiums automatically be deducted, or can I keep paying them separately?
No, once you start Social Security, your Medicare premiums are automatically deducted. You can ask them not to pay to have them deducted. I can't imagine why you would want that, though. There's so much risk around that when you're not getting a dollar difference. There's not any type of monetary advantage to not having it deducted, and so it makes things smoother. You never are at risk of missing, and Medicare is pretty important. You don't want to miss a Medicare payment.
All right, Cutting Tool Designer is asking, I will be 65 the end of 2027 and plan to retire. My wife will be 66 at that time. How will it affect her applying for spousal benefits? Oh, as she's
Sorry. Would you repeat that question one more time?
Yes. I will be 65 the end of 2027 and plan to retire. My wife will be 66 at that time. How will it affect her applying for spousal benefits? She's been on disability since 2013, or does it?
Okay, so let's take the Social Security disability element as a separate element. Let's just talk about spousal benefits. Spousal benefits are based on the age of the spouse when they apply. So if your wife is filing for spousal benefits, the size of your wife's payment is based on how close she is to full retirement age. She can get up to 50% of your benefit when she applies, but she has to be at her own full retirement age when doing it. If she's 66, then she won't be at full retirement age. It'll be 67 more than likely. So she'll get a reduction, but it's going to be based on her age. If her full retirement age is age 67, she applies for the spousal benefit at 66. Instead of getting 50% of the spousal benefit, she'll get 45.83% of your primary insurance amount. Doesn't matter when you apply. Doesn't matter if you get a reduced amount for applying early. Her benefit is based on the size of your benefit at full retirement age, regardless of when you filed, but it's based on her age. Now, the only caveat to that is that she can't apply for the spousal benefit unless you file first. So it's a provision. I think it's a quirky provision personally, but it's a provision in Social Security that creates a lot of problems, particularly if you have a big age gap between husband and wife. And the biggest problem is if the primary earner is much younger than the spouse. And so here you're 65, she's 66. The age gap isn't huge. But if you were 55, she'd actually have to wait until you were 62 and filed for Social Security before she could apply for the spousal benefit. That would be 8 more years. So that's why I said I don't actually think that that provision was fully thought out when they were putting it in place, because there are a lot of marriages are big age gap marriages.
Okay. All right. So a Social Security question from Deborah. After reaching full retirement age, is there still a cap on how much income you can earn in the first year of collecting Social Security? And will Social Security deduct $1 for every $3 they give me?
Once you reach full retirement age, you can earn $1 billion a year, and it doesn't matter. And they won't take away any of your Social Security payment. The $1 for $3 provision is if you're still working and you haven't reached full retirement age yet, but you're in your full retirement age calendar year. So let's say you reached full retirement age in November of that year, that calendar year, and you stopped working in January. Well, or let's use a better example. Let's say you start collecting Social Security in January. We have 10 months of earnings. And if you exceed the earnings limit for your full retirement age year, which is $65,160, then you'll have to give $1 back for every $3 over that limit. Now, in your full retirement age year, that's actually broken down to a monthly test. So it's not 65,160, it's 65,160 divided by 12. And so it's a monthly test for the first year.
All right. So Sybil F9081 is asking, I'm 62 and just started collecting survivor benefits from my deceased husband. If I decide to take a full-time job in January, which will exceed the $24,000 cap, will the payments stop or will they resume?
Well, you need to tell Social Security that you've gone back to work, and they'll freeze your payments. You don't want to be in a situation where you're writing a big check to Social Security. The horror story here, and it's so classic, and I hear it so many times, and it doesn't matter if it's your survivor benefit or your own benefit or the spousal benefit, is that nobody realized that they could only earn a certain amount, and then they had to start giving money back. And so they go out and they do something like they buy a car. They buy that brand new car that they've wanted their entire life because they have all this extra cash coming in, only to find out that they don't actually have all this extra cash coming in. Not only do they not have the extra cash coming in, but they need to return all of it. And they'll only get it back once they reach full retirement age. So in this situation, if you're going to go back to work and you're going to exceed the earnings limit, let them know, call the SSA, talk to them in person on this, talk about how much you're planning on earning, and they'll tell you how much to withhold from your monthly Social Security payment.
All right, Parrot Head is asking a Social Security question. My wife is 6.5 years younger than I am. I am the higher earner. I plan to take at 70, so she has the max survivor benefit. Say I die at 70 years and 1 month. Does she need to wait till her full retirement age for full benefits?
She does, but not for the reason you think. She doesn't need to wait to get 100% of your benefit. She needs to wait because that 100% is going to be haircut by her age. So at 64 years in 5 months, assuming her full retirement age is age 67, that means that she will get approximately 89% of your age 70 benefits. If she waited until her own full retirement age 67, she'd get 100%. And that becomes permanent. So when she starts collecting, she can't undo that. And so the survivor benefit is calculated. There are two calculations. One is how much was the deceased earning, or would they have been earning at the point they passed? And the second is what age does the survivor claim the survivor benefit? And they're two separate calculations. In your case, you're maxing out the biggest amount possible for her by waiting until age 70. She can max it out by waiting until age 67. Now, that's a pretty common calculation. It's called a break-even calculation, and there are a lot of things that go into why she might want to wait earlier or why she might want to go later. But by and large, if she's trying to get the maximum survivor benefit, then she'll want to wait to her own full retirement age before she claims the survivor benefit.
All right, John has a Social Security question. I will retire at 70 in 6 months. If I predecease my wife, will she be entitled to my maximum Social Security benefit or my full retirement benefit? Similar question.
I think that's the same question, just asked differently. So, John, if the answer that we gave for the previous question didn't answer your question, let us know in the chat box and I'll go through it with you.
Okay, Doug is asking, in a recent video, you mentioned about law regarding the Social Security 24% cut in 2032-2033 if it runs out of funds. How likely do you feel Congress will just let this happen without some kind of drastic measures?
I don't think it's likely. So it would be very easy, and I could get a lot of clicks on a video talking about the end of days, so to speak, when it comes to Social Security. But I don't think it's likely. I think it's unlikely. And the reason is this. You've got, put your political views aside for a second. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have both said that Social Security, protecting Social Security, is sacrosanct. They both said it. They say it all the time. And you can go on the internet and find somebody somewhere that found an article published by some magazine that nobody's ever heard of with some conspiracy theories on both sides. But the bottom line is that both parties have said, we want to protect Social Security, and it's out there. So imagine what happens if we come up to 2032 after both parties saying we're going to protect Social Security and they don't do it. You got 57 million people who are receiving Social Security all of a sudden get a 23% cut. Two things are going to happen. Got a lot of people moving home with their kids because they can't afford to live anymore. And the second is a lot of politicians are going to be voted out of office the next cycle, not only by the people who had their Social Security cut, but by the kids who now have mom and dad living back home with them. So I think it's highly unlikely. And this very situation happened before, and nobody wants to address it now because it's not close enough. Unfortunately, that's the way that the governments work. But I don't think it's likely. I can't promise you that, of course, because I'm not a politician. But you just look at history and you look at the posturing of both parties, and I think it's unlikely.
Okay, so we have another Social Security question from Opa R.I. Andrew. My wife applied for Social Security at 62, and I plan to apply after 67, but I'm planning at 70. What are my wife's options after I apply?
Your wife applied for her own Social Security at age 62. And what are her options after you apply? Well, depending on how much your wife is receiving on her own benefit, she could apply for the spousal benefit. Once you apply for yours, she qualifies for the spousal benefit. A lot of what the decisioning is around that is your wife earning more than the spousal benefit? Is her payment bigger than what the spousal benefit would be? If the answer is no, then the spousal benefit will have a reduction based on her applying early. And the example I give is if your wife's Social Security payment was $1,000 at full retirement age 67, that would mean that it would be $700 a month at age 62. So she is down $300. If the spousal benefit would have been $1,500 at full retirement age, when you apply and she qualifies for the spousal benefit at full retirement age, that $1,500 is also reduced by $300. So whatever discount she took on her primary insurance amount is approximately the discount that she would take on the spousal benefit.
Okay, he had an addendum to the question, which was, my wife is on Social Security now at 66, and I turned 65 this year, but plan to apply after 67. He wants to apply at 70.
Yep.
Does she have any options before and or after I pass away?
Okay, so two different issues. She doesn't really, the option for the spousal benefit only becomes an option once you apply for your own benefit. There's something called dual entitlement, which means that once if she qualifies for both, she's going to get the higher of the two regardless. The survivor benefit is a different story. If you wait until age 70, then she can receive the survivor benefit under most circumstances, assuming that you guys were married for, I think it's 1 year. And unless there's a death, an accidental death, I suppose, in most cases anyway, then that's waived. But that doesn't sound like that's an issue here. So the question about the survivor benefit is simply the survivor benefit becomes available to her once you pass, and she can receive the survivor benefit. But again, it's going to be based on the age at which she claims. If she is 65 now, is that what you said, Jill?
She is currently 66.
66. So
turned 65 this year, but is not going to be applying until age 70.
Once your wife reaches full retirement age 67, then she gets 100% of your benefit as the survivor. And if you're waiting till age 70, she gets 100% of your age 70 benefit, assuming that's larger than her own benefit. It wouldn't go down, put it that way.
Okay, Rootsy is asking. Oh, Rootsy is saying thank you for all the great info. Honey is asking, does Social Security benefit get taxed at any age, even after full retirement age?
Well, so the answer is they don't take tax out, but you can ask them to take tax out, but it doesn't automatically happen. But you do have to look at your total income picture, and whether you're at full retirement age or not, your Social Security tax is based on your combined income, and that is your earnings, your adjusted gross income, your tax-free income, and 1/2 of your Social Security payment. That's called your combined income. That's all added together. And if you reach certain thresholds, you're going to be paying tax on Social Security. And so it's something to think about. But whether you're at full retirement age or not, that's not one of the biggies. Full retirement age has a lot of magic around it. You can do some things that you couldn't do before. You can collect Social Security and work. It's the age that all spousal benefits are based on. It's the age of the divorced spouse benefits based on, and it's the age where your partner can get 100% of the survivor benefit. So it's a great age for a lot of things, but taxes isn't one of them.
Okay, Keith is asking, if I start collecting Social Security at 62 in May and work until July in January 2027, will I get a bill for the make $2, pay $1?
If you start Social Security in May and then you work until July, then and you said Joey's age 62?
If I start collecting Social Security at 62 in May,
Okay.
work until July of January 2027.
Yep. So you're going to, the first year of your Social Security payment test is going to be converted to a monthly test. And so what you do is you take $24,480, that's your earnings limit, you divide it by 12, and your monthly test is $2,040 a month, the first year only. If you exceed $2,040 a month, then you have to give back $1 for every two in excess of that limit. In the subsequent year, the test is an annualized limit. And so if you don't exceed $24,480 in the subsequent year, then you're not going to be paying tax on Social Security. But the first year is it's a 1 year limit only. It's really so that people don't go into Social Security having had a huge earning year or a big earning year. All of a sudden, the minute they apply, they owe everything and more back because they had a great year prior to filing for Social Security. It's a partial year. Basically, it's a partial year calculation for most people.
All right. Tina Taylor is asking, my husband is 5 years older than I am. He will take his full Social Security at 67. He is the larger earner. Is it better for me to start taking Social Security at 62 or wait till I'm 67?
That's the question of the ages. And that's one of the things we tackle in my course, Social Security Simplified. Jill, did you put that information in the chat box?
I did, and I will put it back in for whoever may have joined later and didn't get to see it.
One of the things we do pretty early in the course, and this is why you hear me saying the same thing over and over again, is we do a diagnostic. And you answer 25 questions. And those 25 questions are there really to determine what your core drivers are. If you were to go back in time, there was only one core driver. It didn't matter really what your aspirations are. It didn't matter what your family situation was. It was how can you get the most money out of Social Security? It was called break even. The Social Security Administration had a chart published on its website. It's since taken it down because they realized, I suppose, about 10 years ago that people choose Social Security for different reasons. But think about it like this. There are people that file the day they turn 62 because they just need the money. Life's been hard and they have no other options, and it's there and they're going to take it. Do I think it's the best option? It's not the best one, but it's certainly a valid one. The second reason to take it early or wait is just based on your current income level. If you have enough money to retire comfortably and you want to enjoy the early part of retirement a little bit more, well, maybe that makes sense to retire early. Or conversely, if you don't have any protection for late stage retirement for things like long-term care, you might want to wait as long as possible. And then the final reason is you look at your obligations. What are your obligations to your family members? If there's a reason that you need the income earlier versus later, if you're trying to manage a specific situation, well, that will inform you anyway on which way to go. It is a complicated decision, and it's not one that you can answer on a live stream unless you just want me to say what Social Security break-even calculation says, which is look at your health, look at your family history's health, and try to determine what your longevity looks like, compare that against the cash flow of that, and your decision on that versus waiting. And if you think you're going to live longer than the break even, then you wait to take Social Security. But that's not the answer for most people. The answer for most people is it depends on your specific life situation.
All right, we are at the top of the hour. Maybe we'll just stuff in one more Social Security question. Just came in from
Sure.
C. Jim Cook. Say I turn 70 on July 25th. To get the full benefit of being 70, do I apply to start Social Security retirement benefits on July 25th, July 26th, or 30 days later, August 25th?
So if you turn 70 in July, your first payment as a 70-year-old will start in August. So you can determine when to file. You can file and say, I want my payments to start when I turn 70, which basically means that you'll start when you in August to get the full benefit of age 70. But you can apply for Social Security benefits up to 4 months in advance. And if you know that you're waiting till age 70, there's no harm in applying 4 months in advance. And in fact, under many circumstances, you get informed the next day, you apply and you get the notification the next day. But if there's something that needs to be dealt with, well, you'll have 4 months to deal with it.
All right. So Parrot Head has an addendum question, and perhaps maybe he can email that to you. You answered his question. He has an add-on for that. But we are at 8:02.
Gang, if you have questions that weren't answered tonight, send them to livestream@holyschmidt.com, and we will try to get back to you on them. Some of the questions I was a little bit vague on because they were very specific to individual situations. Some of them were very clear, but if you feel like you didn't get the answer that you were looking for, you need more information, fire it across, and we'll either deal with it on next week's live stream as a write-in question, or we'll come back to you directly. In the meantime, if you want a copy of Ari's book, it's not that complicated. Jill, did you put the information in the chat box?
I did. I put it in just a minute ago. So that's live stream at holyschmidt.com. Type Ari's book. And for Jeff's course, it's Social Security Simplified. Go to holyschmidt.com /Social Security. I just put that into the chat box as well. And do put in the coupon code 60 off. So 60 and then uppercase OFF. And that will give any of the listeners here tonight $60 off the course.
Okay, gang, I think that's it. We got to wrap it up. It's 8:04, so we're well over. We're keeping you late tonight. Sorry about that. Jill, thanks again for your expert advice. Now you can go work out now that we're done here, and maybe hit the weights there. And in the meantime, we'll talk to everybody else next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Jill.